Professor Andres and Eddie Webster and others, because we've been waiting very long time with SWOP. And as NOM, we do not ask any favors from anybody, but we have welcomed any critiques, and that's what we have done with SWOP for many years. The difference at our ways was a strategy to try and move people from hostile system, because you see environment impact on the thinking of people. There were management was arguing all the time to say people like hostels, they don't want to move out of hostels. And we said that is not true. Now living at ours was an intervention. The only problem I'm having is that how it is presented is it is as if it's a problem when it must be seen as an achievement. Now, how do we move from it, because it's unintended consequences? How do we move from that a challenge and move forward? That's what we must discuss, and not present it as a problem, because any achievement could have unintended consequences. The next point I want to raise as a question, as a challenge to you, is that there's an issue around women in mining. And I was talking to the lady earlier during the breakfast to say, you see, sometimes we are very much disappointed because research must be factual. So you don't really lose a problem without tracing where it comes from. NOM campaigned big time for the employment of women in mining. 10% issue, from 1998, when the Chamber of Mines said that no to women, we said women can work in mining, and we took 14 women underground here in Carltonville, and they proved that they can work in mining. Now, when there are challenges about women in mining, let's not wipe off history. Let's say there are challenges, and NOM has so many challenges about women. Let's build on it and say, what are the challenges? How do you address them? Now, when you see in the research, it say women moved from NOM to join OASA. What is the history of where this thing coming from? The last point is about health and safety, and thank you for that report on health and safety. Because there's been argument that says the NOM has made a mining industry non-functional in business terms. In other words, we have forced or influenced the introduction of policy which makes it difficult for companies to make money. The issue of Section 54, for example, we are blamed for that. And we said any profit cannot be exchanged for life of a human being. It can be one life or two lives, it cannot. And it is proven there, in my view, how I understand is that there is regulatory in Australia, and I know that, we have made our own research about that, and to say South Africa is bad in terms of regulation, when we know that in other countries a CEO can even be imprisoned for ignoring health and safety rules. That is not true. So this is our factual issues. Health and safety must be first, and NOM is actually promoting that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I please ask that the questions and comments be kept reasonably short so everybody can get in? I think it was at the back.
Sorry, I'm Leonard Gentle from Ilrit. A thing that's been disturbing me for the last 2 days, so I need to get that out, is the conference is billed the meanings of Marikana, but nowhere so far, or what I see the rest of the program, is the reflection on the political meanings of Marikana. I mean, here we've had the state killing workers, and it's in the public domain on TV. The first post-democratic massacre of people. What's its political significance? What does that say about the nature of the state? We heard reflections yesterday about the continuities and reconstituting of the MEC. But the MEC wasn't just an economic category. It was also a political understanding of what was the political construction that made that form of capital accumulation possible. If we're seeing its continuities, what are we saying about the political nature of the state and its ruling party today? Andres was talking about the continuity of the cheap labor power system, post-apartheid, albeit in a new form. What are we then saying about the political nature of the state and its ruling party today? Notwithstanding what the previous speaker is saying, it's clear from the representations and what we know. On the other side, the significance of the breakup and the eclipse of NUM in the mining sector, in the platinum sector, NUM as the biggest, ex-biggest affiliate of COSATU, COSATU as an important, whether Vavi was calling it the labor desk, etc., of the ANC or not. What's the political significance of this reconstituting of worker organizations and worker formations in mining? Nowhere has this been touched on. So even if you look at the regulatory environment, who's going to impose and enforce? We're talking about the state. We're talking about how then do new configurations of working class forces begin to act in ways or not act in ways on the state in order to change things. And yet there's been no reflection on it. I find that disappointing. Unless we come closest to it, but you're not even drawing then the conclusion, say, politically. To talk about an enclave, with all due respect, it sounds, even when you talk about sub-national, that's the old style apartheid categories. Now, to what extent is its reintroduction now, what is it saying to us politically about the processes of mobilization and active, and even to SWOP? I mean, historically, SWOP positioned itself as an initiative to look at developments in the labor market and in order to help build the labor movement of its time. But the labor movement's in crisis in South Africa. What are we then saying politically about the positioning of institutions, academia, progressive economists and so on? What do I pass that flow from such a political analysis of the meaning of Marikana? I think it would be important to have such a discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I just have a small comment and it concerns Andrea's analysis, to make him honest. And Andrea, I've raised this before, but I guess it's important, I think, to flag this. But if one looks at the health and safety performance of the South African mining industry, and you divide that between gold and platinum on the one hand and between coal, you'll see exactly the same type of analysis emerge. In other words, South African coal mines are largely comparable to the experiences in Australia. And I think it's important then, because what it allows us to do locally is start teasing out the different dynamics within those work environments and why they produce such different outcomes. And I think too, when one looks at the issue of gender and South African mining, the issues of gold and platinum with its reliance on manual work, very heavy manual work, and the relative mechanization to coal mines also provide for very distinct character of gender and the profile of genders in those mines. And that's all I want to.
Gavin Capps from SWOP. My question's for Joseph, just before that. The questions Lenny raised.